This is a test of the Boundary Park alert system.
Hello and welcome to the Boundary Park alert system with me, Matt Dean. This morning, I'm afraid Andy Halliwell is looking after poorly family. So that's obviously more important. So hopefully, Andy, all goes well and everyone's fighting fit again soon enough. So instead, I'm joined as by Dom Lowe, who is from Oldham Athletic Supporters Foundation, one of my fellow directors in that organisation. So morning, Dom. Thanks for stepping in at the last minute.
No worries, Matt. Good morning.
Good stuff. We've been talking about getting someone from OASF on for a while, haven't we, to sort of fill us in with what's going on. And you've been very busy of late, so that's all good. It's all worked out okay in the end. And we already had a fan guest lined up. So we'll just go through the usual process. I've got the questions here before we introduce who you actually are, what your name is. So can you tell us what your first game was, please?
Yeah, that was back in 1970. It was against Wrexham. It was a night match. My dad took me. It was 0-0, so set me up well.
Yeah, do you remember it well?
I remember bits of it. It was just like I think I was like 7-year-old or 6. Well, I'd be 7 in 1970. I just remember the floodlights, the pitch. We played in tangerine and blue, and it was just like captivating. I don't remember any of the actual game. It was just the experience. It was just like magical back then.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's the thing with that. We don't remember the details, but it's just the essence of it in it that we remember. So who was your favourite player? Your first favourite player?
Back then, it was Alan Groves. He was just absolute magician. When we signed him, he'd just do stuff what you'd never seen before and what people wouldn't do now. Harry Redknapp told a story about him. We signed him from Bournemouth in October, the season we went up, and apparently he didn't want to leave. So we had a bit of a beef with the chairman. John Bond was the manager at the time, and he left to go to Norwich shortly after. And Bournemouth were run by a committee for a couple of months before they appointed a new manager. When we played the fixture at Boundary Park, Harry Redknapp tells his story. He was a player there coming to the end of his career. We kicked off. The guy passed it to Grovesy from kickoff, and Grovesy launched the ball at the dugout straight from kickoff. He was trying to hit the guy who'd sold him. Right. It was just like unbelievable. And Harry Redknapp's like, what's going on here? What are you doing? But that just like summed him up. He'd be running down the wing, he'd stop and pretend to tie his bootlaces, and the guy who's like chasing him is like, what's going on? And then he'd just spurt off again. He'd nutmeg people every game. He was just brilliant. Loved him.
And he had that really unique look as well, didn't he, for a footballer?
Yeah, the kind of afro hair and the love beads. He was just like iconic. He was just a one-off, but what a player. Loved him.
Nice one. Unfortunately, I don't remember. And the other thing that's unfortunate as well about that era is the lack of video and things like that to be able to go back and look at those. It's not that long ago in the grand scheme of things, but in terms of capturing video and having all that kind of like YouTube that we've got now with all your show reels that make any old player that's half decent look like Maradona. I mean, it would have been great to see something from him, but never mind, you got to see it in the flesh, and that's good for you. So nice one. So maybe this is connected, maybe not. But what's your favourite Latics memory?
It's got to be Wembley, 1990. That was just like we went down for the weekend, stayed overnight on the Saturday night, and it was just superb seeing everyone down there. In the rugby nearly got there as well, didn't they? Oldham Rugby League, they got beat in the semi-final against Warrington. So that I think the rugby were played on the Saturday and the League Cup final on the Sunday. The town would have just been empty. The Inspiral carpets were big, and you're walking around London, HMV, there's like stuff outside about like in windows back in Inspiral carpets. Just felt like Oldham were just everywhere. But apart from the game, it was a brilliant experience.
Yeah, totally, mate, totally. Oh, harking back. Well, I mean, obviously we're going to come on and talk about yesterday, but I guess there's some kind of like parallels to that. But let's just, before we do, let's ask you about what little known fact you might like to reveal.
Okay, my little known fact. My first wife, who I met in late 80s. Her brother was on the playing staff at Oldham at the time.
Right.
So I met her at work, and we went out for a date. And during the course of the conversation, she mentioned, "Oh, my brother plays for Latics, so I liked her a lot more then." And then we started seeing each other, and got married. And so my brother-in-law was a Latics player back in the day. Didn't play for the first team because he was a centre half. He was behind like the likes of Earl Barrett, Kilcline, Jobson. But yeah, it was nice. And he were big mates with Roger Palmer. They went in together because neither of them drove, so it were good.
Nice
So,
one.
known fact.
Yeah. So I bet you got some stories and stuff. Back in the day, didn't you?
With a top ticket in the Chaddy end, like best view and any of the sanctions. So that was the best as well.
Brilliant. Right. So who are you?
Wild.
I think I'm having a bit of an internet wobble here. By the way, I think that's what it is. I think it's
not just you, Matt.
Oh, is it Cliff as well?
Yeah, we've lost him.
That was Cliff Wilde, by the way, who is our fan guest. But we're having a bit of an internet wobble.
Hi, Sexy Dave here for the Boundary Park Alert System. Just what's your name, pal?
Pete.
Pete what? Come on, you're on the world famous Boundary Park Alert System now.
Pete Bitso.
Right, so I believe you come all the way from Germany.
That's right, yeah. Right, Heidelberg.
That's what my mum calls me, Heidelberg. I'm only joking. Today, special day. Are you glad you're here? Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, first time the ground's been full in about 10 years. Frank's right behind you there with his oar.
Yeah. What's your prediction for today?
I'm going 3-1 with Latics, hoping they turn up.
Yeah. And our promotion push now. Do you think we're going to reach the playoffs and be quite comfortable now?
I hope so, because I booked my flight for the playoff final.
All right, mate. So, do you think Kidderminster will be a tough opposition to face?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I think they'll be up for it. They've got a new manager, and I think they'll make it difficult for us. Yeah.
But we'll get back. We're rolled about. We'll make it difficult for ourselves, won't we?
Well, we usually do, don't we? But hopefully we'll come out on top in the end.
So definitely an Oldham win then, mate. Yeah.
I'm saying yes.
Thanks, pal. Yeah. Just with the legend, absolute.
Legend.
No, not legend. No, I'm here with Joe Royal for the Boundary Park Alert System. How are you doing, Joe?
Okay, thank you. As you can see, I've got a stick, but it's only till Monday.
Who do you hit with that?
Nobody. No.
Only joking. So today's quite a special day for Kidderminster at home, but very special for Frank coming home. What's your thoughts on it all?
What a man. You know, I mean, him and his family have probably saved the club, you know, by backing us financially. And then he goes and makes a load of money for charity. They're a great family, they're good people, and they're very genuine.
Are we a sleeping giant now? Is it only a matter of time before we start climbing up, in your opinion?
Let's keep it quiet. Let's keep it quiet. But I mean, yes, I think we're gently getting towards where we want to be. There's still lots to do, you know, and I'm sure as soon as we do get there, when we do get there, there'll be more to do, but it's nice to see us climbing the table.
Joe, just a quick prediction for today. Can you give us a score?
2-0.
Who too? I'm only kidding. Thanks very much for your time. Thank you. Take care. Thanks.
Right. Okay. So that's Cliff going back in time there a little bit and enjoying Oldham at its pinnacle in the in 1990. That's when Inspiral Carpets released their debut album, Life, and that was probably what was in the windows of HMV and that kind of thing. And we were in the cup final, and we were, impressing the whole country. We've fallen from grace somewhat since then. Dom, you probably weren't even born then, were you?
No, I was born in '96. So
yeah,
just as we were getting relegated from the Championship.
Yeah, you're one of those who came in just at the wrong time, really. Well, there's been the wrong time has been any time between then and now. So, but you were there yesterday. I saw you briefly in the Rochdale Road before the game yesterday. It had all the build up. As OASF, we know we've been speaking about wanting to see things like fan parks and stuff like that outside the ground, and I know the club do as well over the long term. There was all that. There was the big crowd, the big build up. How are you feeling going into the game?
We had a little chat about it before, didn't we? And I was feeling relatively confident in the run up. I went on Tuesday as well. I thought we were all right at York. It was a poor quality game, but I thought, if we, I got the feeling that we could turn up on Saturday and do something. And, I was looking at the table and I thought, Kidderminster, second or third from bottom. But then as we got closer and closer to kick off and there's more and more people, it was just that pressure building, I think. And I think I said to you tonight before the game, that pressure, the amount of people in the stadium, it gives Kidderminster something to get up for. And I just worried that it might put more pressure on our players than theirs. In the end, I don't really think it had anything to do with pressure. They just outplayed us, really.
Why though, Dom? Why is a team that second from bottom, and this is not just Kidderminster, we've had Ebbsfleet there in recent times, we've had Woking there, occupying that second bottom spot at Boundary Park, and then we are making them look like, they've just remembered how to play football for the first time all season. So it wasn't just yesterday, was it? That's the thing about context. When it comes to underperforming against teams that are low in the division, and let's not forget the first half against Boreham Wood when we were absolutely abject and just awful. Giving teams the chance to gain confidence and play a bit. They had a few fans with them there. 700 was a good turnout for non-league, for National League. It gave them confidence. The whole, it quietened us down as a fan base, even though we had 10,000 fans in the ground. And it was really, really, really disappointing that they started like they did yesterday. And again, it's not the first time. So
I think it's clear that our away form is fantastic. Our home form is pretty middling, I think, generally in terms of the form table recently. I think coming to, if I was playing for Kidderminster, I was coming to Boundary Park. I'm playing in front of a sellout crowd for the first time in my career, possibly. That would get me up for the game. And I'm not sure, are our players getting up for the game in the same way? I don't think so. At least not at home anyway. And maybe our style of play suits playing away as well, rather than at home. This kind of long ball, playing for second balls type.
We did that yesterday, Dom. And we didn't, and with absolutely no success. So it was very, very frustrating. I don't personally understand it, but going into the game yesterday, ahead of the game, my thoughts were, this is a big test now on this group of players. And I thought, if we win the game yesterday, it proves that they can handle the big occasion and that there's a chance that we'll go up in the playoffs. I thought, if we lose the game yesterday, the opposite. It's going to show, I think we'll probably still make the playoffs, but I think that when it comes to the big occasion, I don't think they've got what it takes. And I don't think we'll go up. So we waited till the end of the game and we found out that we'd lost the game again at home. And that's my assessment now. I think we've got enough in the tank, to get us into the top 7 by the end of the season. Results went our way yesterday and we're still there. But when it comes to the big occasion, I do not think that this group of players has got the character to make it through and get us promoted. I don't, and I do have question marks over the tactics of the team at home and what's being said to them, because yesterday we just sat off Kidderminster. First 5 minutes, we kind of, we were having a little bit more of a go, and then you could see it visually, just see the team just sitting back. So we're playing 3-5-2. So the emphasis is supposed to be on 3 at the back, 5 in midfield, 2 up front, and we're supposed to, be a bit more offensive in that formation. But it just turns into 5 at the back really, really quickly, doesn't it? And then the midfield dropping off, and it just became really, really defensive. Now, it wasn't 3-5-2 against Boreham Wood. I don't think we started off at 4-4-2, didn't we? And then we switched it in the second half, I think, if memory serves. But the point was that at half time, it really wasn't working. We were losing the game, and Mickey Mellon changed it and we won the game. We became a lot more effective in the second half. Yesterday, nothing changed in the second at half time, even though it was absolutely crying out for a change. And it was really, really frustrating because all we were doing is lumping it up. And there were some very, very strange decisions from Mickey Mellon yesterday. He took Ollie Hammond off, who, everybody around me was saying, that he was the best midfielder on the pitches today, and I thought he was as well. And somebody pointed out that they thought that there was a number 8 on the digital card to hold for the substitutes, and I thought I saw a number 8 as well from the back of the Rochester Road. Well, my eyes aren't the best, and it's a long way, so we were expecting Lundstrom to come off, who again just did not affect the game. However, he was being played as a wing back yesterday, which was a bit of a bolt in the blue. So how much, just a very awkward but direct question, how, percentage wise, how much of it was on Mellon and how much was on the players yesterday? Or is it just, do you just have to take the whole thing as a joint responsibility?
I think it's the latter, to be honest. I think it's hard to separate the two, to be honest. Yesterday, I think there was a way, Mellon set up in a way of playing, which relies on us winning headers, I think he described it in his post-match interview as getting the first contact and then picking up the second balls. We did neither, really. Yesterday, when the ball got to Fondorf, it bounced off him and went and Kidderminster picked up that second ball, or we'd be lumping the ball up to Garner, or when he came on Dallas, and they weren't winning headers. I mean, Garner won a couple, but despite his size. But why we continue to lump the ball up when Fondorf goes off, I don't know. Why are we playing that way if we're not going to get players in and around those players to pick up the second balls if we know they're not going to be able to hold on to it?
What he seemed to do is he pushed Hogan up, didn't he, towards the end of the game? Like Conlon dropped back, Hogan was kind of like pushed into this kind of like left central midfield position to pump balls up to him to try and get him to head the ball forward.
Across, yeah. He did that at York as well. That's what kind of happened at the end of York as well, where Hogan was when Hogan was playing as like a left back or a left wing back towards the end. But he was basically just playing as like some kind of like left winger that we were lumping balls up to, like he was Dan Burn basically for Newcastle. But yeah, I found that quite. That was probably the most effective it was, as when we were actually pumping up to Hogan. But that just gave me like vibes of when we used to put like Mboto up front and stuff.
Yeah.
When Dickoff was manager.
When you're running out of ideas and you're just taking it as basic as you can. And the thing is, Dom, the frustrating thing is you've got, we signed someone like Conlon, you're told he's got a good left foot, he likes to pass the ball, he's a leader, he's all these things, and he comes to Latics, and, we've really seen him affect a game once against Barnet. And Barnet just seemed to suit us for whatever reason. We've beat them twice, like it just seems whatever they do, it works for us. We've had Dallas come in, a big fanfare, that's what's actually happened, and I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying that he's come on numerous substitute appearances and had absolutely zero impact on the game. I suspect that's because the way that we're playing just does not suit his style of football. Like I say, I've said it before. I'm not quite sure where he's supposed to play, what his role is, what he's good at, what he isn't good at. Well, we know what he isn't good at. He's not good at long ball football. The midfield yesterday again let us down. We've said before that if their job is to pick up those second balls when it's going long and press and keep the ball up the pitch, they're not doing that. They're not controlling it football-wise. So it's really, really frustrating. So I put a tweet out yesterday. Sexy Dave was doing a photo shoot yesterday. I think he was doing like, was it GQ or Playboy or Playgirl or something like that. I'm not sure, but he's big in demand now on that kind of scene. So he couldn't do the interviews, the post-match interview, which he usually does. So I thought I'll step in because it was a big, usually when he's not there, I don't bother in doing it. But I thought, because it's a big occasion and everything yesterday, I thought I sort of gave myself up to do it. And I've never met Mickey Mellon. So I was a little bit apprehensive, to be honest with you, because as the game's go, it's kind of like in your mind the whole way through the game. It's like, what am I going to ask him? And if we nick an equaliser and we nick a winner, it's all different, innit? And then but at the same time, like if we lose, it's like, well, it's not the end of the world because we're in the playoff places and we're in contention. So it's kind of like, how do you phrase the questions? But then, I've spoken to a few people around me saying, look, I'm going to go and interview the manager. What should I ask him? You know what I mean? Like, because I think the thing is that from the point of view of having us in the press boxes, we're fans, and you want to ask the questions that as fans you've been thinking about during the game, because what else are you going to ask? So like the three questions that I sort of like come up in my head to ask were like what we said already. Why did Ollie Hammond come off? Maybe he'd had a knock or something like that. or whatever. But like, there was no sort of obvious explanation to why he came off instead of Lundstrom. The next question was, why do we sit back against lower league opposition, which is what we've already discussed? It's frustrating. Why do we let them get a foothold in the game and grow in confidence? We've done it. It wasn't just yesterday, like I said, against Woking and Ebbsfleet as well, and against Boreham Wood. And was that long ball tactic were they just doing what you asked them to do off the bench? Was that the tactic? Because and what are the alternatives? What are the alternative ways of playing? But unfortunately, Mickey, and look, I understand. He was very frustrated. He was very annoyed yesterday. I'm not having a go at him, but he answered the club's questions off Alan, which are usually fairly sort of standard questions, not particularly challenging. Which is fair. Look, I'm not having a go at Alan either. I'm just it just is. I'm just explaining it is what it is. And we stood there in the press box after the game, waited half an hour to ask him a few questions, but Mickey decided that he wasn't going to take any more. Suzanne from the Times tried to grab him as he was already going out of the room, but he said, "I've got nothing more to add," and he walked off very, very sharpish. So he really wasn't interested in taking any more questions. He came in, did the bare minimum of what was expected of him, and he left. And that's okay. That's his prerogative. All I was doing when I put the tweet out yesterday was saying what happened. Because if I'm going to stand there for half an hour to ask a question and then I don't get the opportunity to ask a question, then that's the news that I'm going to put out there, that I didn't get the opportunity to ask the question. So I'm not trying to, wind anybody up or do anything like that, and that's what happened. So unfortunately, we didn't get to ask any of those questions. So we'll just have to leave it, and we'll just have to make our own assumptions. But finding an identity within this team, Dom, seems to be a bit of a struggle, doesn't it? We're flipping between four, depending on which odd player is available and which isn't. Is it a 3-5-2? Is it a 4-4? We cannot Mickey can't seem to settle on a system that makes the opposition worry about us.
Ideally, I would like to see us play a 4-4-2 if we're going to play this kind of long ball football, which is fine if we're good at it, but for us to do that, I think we would need different personnel. So I think for the time being, we do kind of have to stick to this 3-5-2. I think we've got three really good centre half. The wing backs, I think I've got question marks over them.
The thing is, though, with the 3-5-2, it's about width, isn't it? And we're talking about having we're not using the width at all. We're not getting good balls into the box. We're not getting bodies into the box to pick up on, to get on the end of crosses, and then if they're headed out, have midfielders following it in, edge of the area, winning those balls, making keeping it alive and causing a threat. So we come back round to, there are a lot of fans who are very, very disappointed with the style of football at the minute, even though it's winning. It's ugly, it's not good to watch. So we're sort of like, we're coming back round to some of the same old questions that we had under Unsworth about style of football. You could argue that we're a bit more successful insofar as we're in the playoff positions and stuff like that. Anyway, so yeah, we've been the victim of a little bit of a internet issue there. But Wildy, Cliff, you're back. Myself and Don were just talking about our take on the game yesterday from a purely from a footballing point of view, about how we struggle against teams down the bottom consistently. We have a lack of identity. We didn't seem to have a plan A or a plan B particularly. What was your take on it?
That's what I was going to say there, what you mentioned, with no identity. He played 4 centre mids yesterday. There were no width. So a couple of games ago, and I can't remember which one it was, maybe the Woking one, and he played a similar formation, and Mellon came out and said, right, I know what we are now, and I know what we need to be. And then he reverts back to playing this 4-4-2. He's putting Hobson at right back. He put Sutton at right back last week. We're just playing makeshift right back, so we're never going to give us any width. I don't know what's happened to Kitchen, but that was just absolute shambles yesterday. Absolute shambles. The first minute, Hammond was 1-on-1 with her keeper, and he could have took that ball another 10 yard and then set himself up for a shot. And what does he do? He passes it to the right. The move breaks down. Have a shot, man. What are you doing? I don't know. They just mugged us yesterday. We were never in it. We wouldn't have scored I know we did score, but we wouldn't have won that game if we'd have been playing for another 3 or 4 hours. They just had us in the pocket.
Yeah, we ran out of ideas, didn't we? We were just talking about how they were humping it up to Hogan in the middle of the park to head on, and that seemed to be the extent of of our ideas. And it does come back to, coaching. It comes back to what they're doing off the pitch on Monday to Friday, because there doesn't seem to be any kind of like passages of play or routines or anything that you go, oh, I've been working on that, I can see what they're doing there. It's moving the players around into positions that they weren't playing in the week before, and then expecting them to do a job. Lundstrom at right wing back yesterday. We're still. I think the bottom line is, regardless of all these new signings and all that, we're still a good way off being a proper team. And I mean, when I say that, I mean an effective team, a team that knows what it's doing, has an identity, and all that kind of stuff. And it's really frustrating, but we're going to have to, unfortunately, we're just going to have to wait again until we're further along, because I don't think, based on the lack of ability to cope with the pressure of yesterday, that we're going to get promoted this season. I think we do need the playoff experience, like I've said all season. We need to get into that top 7. We need to have the experience of being in the playoffs. You never know. Look, you never know, do you? I don't want to write us off completely. I'm just trying to sort of assess where I think we are right now, and we're just too inconsistent, particularly at home. If we do get all the away games, then who knows? Maybe we are, capable of doing it, and we'll go up, that way. But I just I don't mind winning ugly, but losing ugly is not for any of us, is it?
That's the issue, isn't it? I think with that style of play, when it's effective and it works, it feels great, or it feels fine at least.
Yeah.
When it doesn't work, is absolutely abject to watch. Yeah, for me, I think the squad itself is getting there. It's better than it was. It still feels a bit unbalanced, and I think the big sort of missing pieces are those sort of wide players. I wanted to ask what you two both thought about Green not starting. He came on to the right, and then we started lumping the ball up to Hogan on the left.
Yeah, exactly. That happened. He was stood. He was like, he might as well have been Frank in the middle of the Atlantic, stood out on that right wing with no humans on the pitch anywhere near him. Because it was a complete waste of time. The Maidenhead game. Let's go back to that, which was our best performance, and Maidenhead made it easy for us compared to some of the other teams we played recently. But we had Sutton and Green down the right-hand side, and that seemed to work pretty well. We had Hogan and Hammond down the left-hand side, and that seemed to work pretty well. And then what happened in the game after was that Hammond was switched out to the right-hand side, Green was put on the bench, Kitchen came back in and played on the left-hand side as a left winger, and it was a case of, instead of saying, right, okay, what's worked well, how can we minimise the changes so that we can try and replicate what worked well the following game? He seemed to make changes that just disjointed everything that had worked well the game before. Now, we have to, we always assume Mickey Mellon knows better than us as a football man, because he does. So I don't quite understand those changes. I know that Green apparently took a bit of a knock. I'd rather see us go out and finish games early and get on the front foot. And if he's only got 60 minutes in him, if he's coming on, he's either coming on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or he's coming on at 4:15, 4:30. What difference does it make? That extra hour or whatever is not going to make a difference to whatever it is that's hurting him, is it? He might as well start the game as come on later. I think he is a good. I was trying to justify it yesterday. Oh yeah, I think he's good. He's a bit of an impact player. When defenders are a bit tired or whatever. But why don't we just try and kill teams like Kidderminster off in the first half of the game, instead of giving them the time and the confidence to grow into it, and starting with our most attacking team and our biggest threats seems to be the best option. What do you make of it, Cliff?
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's baffling how Mellon thought that team yesterday, how he set us up. We were playing a team, I think they were second bottom, with all the backdrop, with Frank's return and all that. Everyone was buzzing. And he put that performance out. How did he think we were going to win that game? How did he think we were going to create anything? I keep going back to he's messed about with the right backs to bring Lundstrom back in. He's not played a forward pass all season. It's like, how is he going to create anything? And like you said with Green, start the lad, start him. He causes problems. you've just said there exactly right. In the Maidenhead game, it worked. So why change it? Why change it? Okay, if he's injured, fine, but he's not injured because he's come off. He's come off and played. So I don't get the thought process. It's baffling.
That's the thing. It's look, as fans, this is part of football. You know, watch the game, go to the pub, come on a podcast, go on social media. You know, it's changed a little bit now, but it's the same thing. You ask the questions, you try and figure out the decisions, you know, along with your manager who does the same thing. You know, he goes away and he talks with his team and he talks with his coaching staff and they try and figure it all out. What we've been impressed by with Mellon, this is what I was frustrated about yesterday with, you know, him not taking any more questions and, you know, he couldn't get out of there quick enough. And like I said, you know, if I'm having a bad day at work, I probably don't want to get asked loads of questions about it either. So I do empathise. I'm not saying he's wrong for not taking these questions. I'm just expressing frustration at not being able to ask them and, you know, hopefully get a bit of an insight. But in the past, when we've played really badly, he's taken some joint responsibility for it. He said, you know what, we were poor today. It was the team were poor. I take responsibility for it as well. And it was a massive occasion. And whether or not the occasion got the better of Mickey Mellon a little bit as well, who knows? I mean, I think you have to, I try and look at it from everybody's point of view. You know, it's a big pressure game for him. He's got everybody who's related to the club is there. We've got a massive crowd. You realise just how big this club is, probably for the first time in terms of its potential. And you've come away and your team's underperformed. You've got it wrong as a manager because he did. He got it wrong yesterday because he lost the game at home to second in the bottom. He got outsmarted by Phil Brown. That's just the way it was, you know. And I'm sure that he felt that maybe he felt a bit, you know, embarrassed or a bit responsible or whatever. And I wouldn't blame him for feeling like that. And I empathise and I sympathise. And I'm not going to sort of break his balls over it because it's difficult, you know. Everyone, as soon as that final whistle blows, everyone turns their attention to Mickey Mellon. Everyone's like, you know, and it's the same way as with Unsworth. I felt the same feelings for him, and it's difficult. But as fans, we get frustrated, and particularly when you go around and you ask everybody before the game, how are you feeling? It's like, I really think that we could kick on here, but it'll probably be typical Latics. We get a big crowd in, a big occasion, and we'll fluff our lines. And that's what, in the back of everybody's mind, that's what it was. You've been supporting Latics since 1970, Cliff. You've seen it how many times over the years? I mean, we've only not fluffed our lines for a couple of seasons, haven't we? There's only been a couple of seasons where we've, you know, in that whole time where we've or a few seasons, or, you know, the promotion seasons where we've actually, and the cup run, where we've actually managed to live up to that occasion. And every other time, it just seems to be this kind of big build-up, and then this.
You're always thinking this time will be different. Yesterday, exactly what you just said there, it'll be typical Oldham if we mess it up. And I didn't think we would. I thought they'd come out and win the game comfortably. And for that not to happen and for the performance, it's devastating. In my opinion, he set us up not to lose yesterday, and that's scandalous, setting us up not to lose at home against a team who were second bottom. And he failed. He didn't even achieve that. It's worrying. He's had a good number of games now. He's brought a number of good players in. Oh yeah, we've been unlucky with injuries. Norwood, Dallas, Walker, but we've no identity.
That's football, though, isn't it? That's football.
Of course it is.
It's the way it goes.
It's concerning. I don't see where we're going. I genuinely don't, and I've no idea what the answer is. But I don't know. I don't know if he has either.
One of the things I was thinking about, we were talking before, Dom, about the style of football. And if you want to implement a certain style of football, you have to bring in certain types of players, right, to do that. So whatever it is that makes you effective. So if Mickey Mellon's a more direct type of manager, he's going to bring in players one assumes that suit that kind of play. Now, he's either then going to be successful with that or he's going to be unsuccessful. So if he's successful, it means that he's going to stay in his job because you're winning and you're getting promoted and you're doing what you need and the club moves forward. If he's unsuccessful, what it means is that whoever replaces him is left with a load of players that play that style of football that didn't work. And then what you've got to do is you've got to say, right, so what are we going to do now as a club? Are we going to carry on with this really direct and what was ineffective style of football, or are we going to try and change it up? And if the decision is we're going to try and change it up, and then we have to then sort of get rid of all those players to bring in players that can do a different type of football. So this is where the overall sort of vision of what type of football team do we want to build comes in. And that's where the issue of recruitment and forward planning. And that's where someone like a director of football who oversees a style and an identity that outlives a manager comes in. Now we don't have that. So at the minute we've had Unsworth ball. That didn't work. You'd think that melon ball would suit Unsworth ball based on, there's not that many sort of seeming, differences. I'm just a little bit concerned that we're going to end up with this kind of like anti-football team because we're trying to get promoted, and getting promoted it's not that it's short-term thinking, but do you know what I mean? We're trying to get it done this season or next season. And what's the most direct way of getting that done? And then what are we left with if we do in League Two? So the question is, are we trying to build a long-term football identity, or are we trying to get a quick fix to get out of this division? And I'm not saying, I don't know which is the right or wrong approach. I'll put it over to you two. Cliff, what do you think?
Oh, in my opinion, following on from what you just said, though, it's short term, isn't it? They've looked at who can get us out of this division. Mellon's proved that he can. So it's by hook or by crook. The end justifies the means. But you're right. If that fails, where are we then? Do we continue with this style of play, if you want to call it a style of play? What he's not got us up with? Does he bring in players of the same ilk, the same playing style? And then, like you say, it's going to be anti-football. It's going to become very quickly. It's going to become very negative. Do we need a long-term plan, or is it get out of this league at all costs? Because if that's the case, then he needs to get on it rapid. If we don't go up this season, which you're probably right, we won't. We should get in the playoffs. If next season we're messing about 9th, 10th after Christmas, and it's just the same style of football as it is now, like how is that benefiting us? I don't know. There don't seem to be any long-term plan. They've sat down and said, we need to get out of this league. Who can get us out of this league? Mellon, he's proved that he can. Let's go with him. Hook or by crook, he'll get us out. And if that doesn't happen, where do we go then?
Yeah, I think that's right. That'll be the thinking. We just need to get out of this division. We're going to lose the rest of our sort of Premier League trickle down money at the end of the season, which means the academy will go. And I think that the long-term planning is we have a short-term goal to get out of this division so we can get more money and run a more successful, sustainable football club. I assume is the idea. And then once we get to League Two, we'll implement a long-term vision. That's the hope anyway for me. I guess there's two different ways of approaching it, isn't there? You can do it the Wrexham way, which is pay for expensive, aging players, I guess, and play a direct style of football, get a long throw specialist, force your way out of the division, and then see how you get on at League Two. Or there's the Gateshead and sort of Notts County way of doing it, where you sort of build a sort of attractive, entertaining style of play. I would have quite liked to see us go for the Gateshead manager when we sat on Unsworth.
The bright lights of Milton Keynes were too much of a distraction for him, Dom, I'm afraid.
Talk about pressure. All them empty seats staring at you. It must.
yeah. Being able to hear everything you shout as it echoes around the stadium. Yeah. Notts County started well, but I mean, I know it's very close in that division, but they're dropped down to 13th now, and I think that's what you kind of expect, really, with clubs that go up. You don't always expect them to do what Stockport and Wrexham are, and just bounce through and kick on, but. Like you said, Notts County had a real identity of what they're trying to achieve. But it took them a while to get out of this division. It took Wrexham a while to get out of this division. It took Stockport a while to get out of this division. It's not a given that we're going to do it, regardless of however we play, whether we have, we're building a brilliant footballing team or a very, very direct, what's the winning style is the effective style, isn't it? Basically, whatever it is that works and whatever it works for your players. And Mellon's been assessing these players now, and I guess he feels that direct approach is best. My brother, who he really he's very vocal during the game about what he's thinking. He's really not into this at all. He hates the style of football. He can't understand why we're going from 4-4-2 to 3-5-2. Put it all on the manager. He said he keeps going on about Steve Thompson and about that little run and that the first few games under Thompson, when he just had them playing a much more attacking sort of football, like on the deck, was more effective. I get bored about him going on about it because he keeps going on about it, but there is a nugget of truth in there where I think where the shackles were taken off the players under the caretaker manager, and I think this is often a way when you have an interim. The interim manager doesn't have to worry too much about getting promoted or whatever. He kind of takes the shackles off the players, and he tends to say, and that's not just Thompson's case. Obviously, it wasn't the same under Salim. I'm sure there's many other caretaker managers that haven't had success, but there is a bit of a trend, I think, not just in Latics but across sort of the game, where the pressure is off an interim manager and he just says to the players, go out and do your thing, enjoy yourself, doesn't overburden them with tactics and discipline on the pitch, and often it works for a little while, and then a full-time manager comes in and they tend to then coach the shit out of players. And I think that what we've got here, I think we had the same with Unsworth. I think we've got with Mickey Mellon. I think there's a lot of, he's expecting them to do a lot of stuff. And I think he expected the midfield to sit back yesterday until the second half when he actually wanted Sharon to start to push on a little bit. So I think the players are doing what they're told. There was a lot yesterday of the ball intentionally going back to Hudson and him humping it forward. Not putting it forward, giving it back to the keeper so that he could hump it forward. That seems to have been an instruction from the bench, from the coaching team, and it wasn't working. So at what point do you just sort of say to players, we need to try something different, like go out and just go and play, go and play. And yesterday, in front of nearly 12,000 fans at home on such a massive occasion, surely that was the time to say, go on, lads, go and play, put them on the back foot right from the off, go and show that crowd what you can do. But it was the shackles were on, it seemed, and it just stifled the life out of the team. It stifled the life out of the fans, and it stifled the life out of the occasion, unfortunately. And that's what was so disappointing yesterday. It's that bloody Groundhog Day feeling again of Latics, this kind of like pumped up and then I was sat behind the goal in the Rochdale Road end, and that first 15-20 minutes I just remember thinking, God, I'd be absolutely thrilled if I was a Kidderminster fan right now. They were at us, they were man for man, we didn't have a second on the ball. That's exactly what I wanted to see Latics do at the start of the game. And I think if they'd have done that, they would have got the crowd up and we would have been cheering every tackle, cheering every clearance that goes out for a throw. Instead, we were groaning and booing every long ball up from Matt Hudson in the 89th minute. The reason why a lot of managers are moving away from direct football is because it's random, isn't it? There's a lot more variables when you lump the ball forward. Is it going to go to the right person? Are they going to win the header? Which way is that header going to go? Yeah. Is there going to be a player there? Can our player get there first? Whereas if you controlling the ball, there's less variables. And it was the time to do it as well, Dom, because you've got all those extra fans in the game, at the match watching, so coming along and saying, what's all this about at Latics? This is great. The sun's shining. It's usually pissing down. Last however many home games, it's been absolutely driving with rain. It wasn't that. It was like, people that have not been for a long time, this is fantastic. Look at this. Like, I'm back at Latics for the first time. Great occasion, great crowd. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, the product on the pitch is absolutely terrible. Moore, who has been, moved to Oldham recently, a friend of mine, he sent me a text yesterday and he said, this is a guy who's it's the second time he's seen Latics. First game was Oxford when we won 4-0. And then he said, they just didn't look like they knew what they were doing. And that, unfortunately, was the case. So it doesn't entice people back, and that's the and obviously the board are going to be frustrated with that. Frank's going to be frustrated with it. we're all frustrated, and those of us who go every week are going to keep going every week. But these games are an opportunity to hook a few more people in, and the quality of the game and the performance is what's going to do that. It's not just going to be the atmosphere and all the bodies in there. It has to be that they have to look at the pitch and go, yeah, there's something going on here. There's something I can get behind. But unfortunately, the players, look, I mean, we've focused a lot on the manager today. Let's focus on the players as well, because it's been the same when we've played these teams, Woking, Boreham Wood in the first half, Ebbsfleet, other games earlier on in the season, where they're not winning the individual battles, they're not earning the right to play football. And when they get the ball back, instead of keeping it and doing what you said, Don, which is trying to control it and create opportunities, just giving it away, giving the ball back to the opposition. So there you go, you have another go. And that's massively frustrating. So we're in with a shout. It feels like, and there's like a contradiction of feelings, isn't there, Cliff? It feels like we're in with a shout, but we're miles off it.
Exactly. And like I said, I think we will get in the playoffs. Christ knows how, but I think we will deal with getting enough points to, even if it's 6th to 7th, I think we'll get in there and then see where we go. But about the players, you said they get the ball and they can't wait to get rid of it. Nobody, they seem scared of like getting your head up, putting your foot on the ball, getting your head up, having a look who is an available pass. As soon as they get the ball, they're just passing it straight on. Like, hopefully to one of our players, but like more often than not back to the opposition. I don't know, and that's like fear. And is that like down to Mellon, who's giving him these instructions? You launch it, get it up top. Is he giving him the confidence, the freedom to like put your foot on the ball? Don't be afraid of making a mistake. I don't know. These players have got ability. Like they wouldn't be here. Like. So what they're stifling the ability. You've had loads of conversations, Matt, about Lundstrom, everything, how good he was at Altrincham, Dan Ward, how, I don't know, Andy says he weren't all that, but he was obviously good enough, one of the better players. They come here and everything what we've signed them for, they're not doing here now. That to me has got to be down to the coaching. It's got to be. They're not just like turning to shit players as soon as they come to Oldham when they were great at the previous clubs.
It's absolutely baffling, isn't it? I mean, there was, talking about options and passing and giving the ball away and playing long. There's the one obvious example from yesterday, which was when we were up for a corner or a free kick. I can't remember which one it was, but the ball came back to Nathan Sharon, who was the one. He was the one defensive player that we had who'd stayed back. The ball came to him, and he played it back to the keeper from within the opposition half. Now, when I look back at it, obviously the initial reaction is, "What are you doing? Get the ball back in play." But what he did was he realised that he had Kidderminster players were pressing him. He had to take a touch. Now, he did have the opportunity to take a touch and lob the ball back in, but he was worried that he was going to lose the ball and be the last man, and Kidderminster were going to break. So what he did is he played it safe. He got the ball, he turned and he played. So there was a lack of confidence there in his ability to sort of keep the ball, but also there was a lack of options. The players that were coming out of the box, nobody got wide for him. Nobody said, "Give it me there," like, you know what I mean, and could read the fact that he was isolated and on his own. So it was just, let's not just like pin it all on Nathan Sharon, who did make, if he'd have had a bit more confidence to sort of take a touch and maybe lob it back in or whatever, but he played it safe, and it kind of encapsulated the performance, really, that moment. And that's why, the groans, and it was like, oh, we're never going to win. You said it before, Cliff. If we'd have been on the pitch for another hour, we wouldn't have scored another goal. We just, ironically, the goal came from the one good bit of football that we played, where the ball got in for Fondop, he got wide, he put the ball in the box. Hey, lo and behold, you put the ball in the box. Like, what happens? Like, you get people on bodies on the end of it. We scored, and we're at Eastleigh on Tuesday. It's a lovely pitch, Eastleigh. They played Bromley yesterday. It was on the telly. They've got a really nice surface. There's football to be played on it. We're just going to have to see which Latics turn up, won't we? But if that Latics that Eastleigh beat Bromley yesterday, if that team that turned up at Boundary Park on Saturday turns up against Eastleigh, we won't win that game either. So it's just so frustrating, isn't it? It really is, because, you know, we're a club that's been through a lot and we're all just dying for it to click into place. It doesn't necessarily just click into place. Just because we've hit rock bottom doesn't mean that we're going to be back on top in no time. There is a certain amount of patience required from us, because we can't force that. We can't force it. There's nothing we can do. So we're just going to have to put up with it and hope that we get results and performances. But I understand fans' frustration, because I feel it as much as anybody else does, and we're desperate for it to work. Everybody at the club is desperate for it to work. Mickey Mellon, I'm sure, is desperate for it to work. The players are desperate for it to work. It's just the big question: why doesn't it consistently work? And, you know, maybe next season will evolve. You know, third season in the National League, if we don't get promoted. Obviously, if we do get promoted, this season's been a brilliant success. That's because that's ultimately what you'll look back on. We got promoted, fantastic. Nothing else matters. In reality, it doesn't. If we don't go up this season, then we're going to have to just improve, and we're going to have a better version of what we've got this season. And because next season we've got to be favourites for the title with our budget and the club, you know, based on who's Chesterfield are going up, based on who's coming down and who's already in this division, you know, and the fact that we know the club and the owners, and we've had 3 years to stabilize the club, and they've done a great job on that. Let's finish the podcast on some positives in terms of the occasion yesterday. You know, people want to be associated with Oldham Athletic. You know, Photo Op FC were out in full force yesterday, weren't they? You know, your local politicians, and they got Brian Cox was at the ground, and, you know, they're working with Brian. The reason is, you know, they're working with Brian Cox. There's going to be some. I don't think, did they make an announcement on what Brian Cox is actually going to be doing? I don't know if
I couldn't hear it. Obviously, I was in the Rochdale Road end.
Yeah, you can't hear anything in the Rochdale Road end, can you, on the speaker system? But, you know, so there's people want to be associated with the football club again. Fans want to be associated with the football club again. Everything is going in the right direction. We know that, and we're all extremely grateful for that, and for the people that are responsible for putting the money into that, because ultimately none of this stuff happens without money and good management. So we're all ecstatic at where we are now compared to where we were. And I think the final piece of it is winning football, consistent winning football. And that's just the piece that we're going to have to be patient for, I think, because we're still not there yet in terms of the performances. You know, we've not played. We struggle against seemingly the lesser teams in the division, but, you know, like you go back to Dorking, we won, but we were lucky. Yeah. And I think that's where we're at. The performances, grinding out results is okay, but you want to see a bit of a glimmer that the performances are getting incrementally better, to use that old chestnut. But let's not be too down in the dumps about it. The club is in a good position.
To be fair, yeah, before the game, you know, it was really good atmosphere around the ground for hours before kickoff. You know, the fan zone was you know, full. There's a big queue when I got there at about 2, so I didn't go in. I went to the club shop. I had a mooch in there. That was rammed. There was a massive queue of people buying scarves and things, and away tops. You know, I saw loads of people around the ground with, you know, new scarves, who I assume, you know, hadn't been for a while. It was a great occasion. It was a shame that, as you say, we probably won't retain as many of them as we would have liked to, if we'd have, you know, absolutely battered Kidderminster yesterday.
It opened up some questions for me yesterday, Dom, about football in general and some of the broader issues. And this is something that, you know, as OASF, we'll be able to explore. Cliff, I'm not sure how much it was to get into Boundary Park when you first started going in 1970. But when I first started going, my first memory of the price, it was £2.25 for kids and about £4 for adults, I think. I think that was you know, that I can remember in the late 80s. Oh, yeah, I think it was around about that. And now, you know, if you pay on the match day, what is it, 24 quid on a match day? You know, and in proportion to your earnings and your weekly outgoings, and if you've got a couple of home games, you know, on the bounce and things like that, it's a huge amount of money. Kidderminster brought, I would say, probably 3 times more fans than they would have done normally yesterday, or at least double the amount of fans as they would have normally brought. Now, £1 is obviously not a realistic amount of money to for a home game for any club. It's not sustainable. But surely, if prices are less, more fans will come, and that's got to be better for the game. How do we sort of tackle that? Because surely prices are only. I know prices at Latics have sort of stayed the same for a few seasons now. They've not really gone up, and if you buy the tickets in advance, I think they're £18. Is that right? But
20 now, I think.
Is it 20?
It was 18 last season.
It's still, in the town that we live in as well, and in the economic challenges that we face. Isn't it so much better and amazing that a football club at this level can pack a ground out, and surely the price of football, of admission to football, is a barrier to those kind of crowds. Along with the style of football that we witnessed yesterday. But I'd love to have a realistic conversation with the club and within the broader game and get the club involved in that broader conversation of how can we reduce the cost of football to supporters so that we can get bigger crowds across all 5 divisions of the professional game in this country. What do you think, Cliff?
I agree with what you say. I don't know how they can do that. Dom mentioned next season, if we don't go up, we lose the loss of the trickle down money. So the club, we've got to replace that money, haven't they? So they're not suddenly going to turn around and say, right, admission prices over tenner next season. I guess that they can't do that because they'll lose a lot of money. But then the important thing is, like you said, it was brilliant yesterday to see that many people in there and charging 24 quid or whatever it is, 22 quid if you turn up on the day. You're not going to get 10,000 people every game. So I get football needs to be cheaper, but how you do that, Matt? Christ knows, I don't know. Do the Premier League
it can't be impossible. It can't be impossible, can it? Because as a species, we're capable of a lot, aren't we? You know what I mean? And football, football's all about the fans. We're always hearing it, but then we're never seeing anything that actually, makes it happen. Yesterday, so for me, you've got to try and make every single match an occasion. Not, we saw under the Lemsegans, if you get the same people turning up with a season ticket, not spending money on the gate, not spending money in the club, then you are not going to make money on a match day. So the more people that are in the stadium on a match day spending money and feel that they've got a few extra quid in their pocket because they've saved money on admission, they're going to spend more money in the ground and all that kind of stuff. So it all comes down to number crunching at the end of the day. Hopefully, Dom, we will get access to the first year of accounts under the new board at the club. And these are some conversations that we can have, because I think we need and we want to get more fans into Boundary Park. There's a huge potential fan base at Latics. Our stadium is not that big. It holds, minus restrictions and all that, about 13,500. If we're at the top, towards the top of the division, there's no reason why we can't fill Boundary Park, even in the National League, and when we get into the playoffs and things like that. So I would love to see football become more affordable. I would love to see, having that whole conversation about trickle down from the Premier League and all that kind of stuff is just, that's part of a much, much bigger agenda. And there are organisations like Fair Game that are trying to do that, trying to, improve the distribution of wealth down across the game. But, fans want promotion, fans want better footballers, fans want money to be spent in the team. That all comes at a massive cost to the club. Fans want to be in big crowds. The club want big crowds in the ground. It is a difficult thing to figure out, but there has to be some kind of a solution, because if prices just keep going up and going up, and if next season, say this season, we don't go up, we don't make a big impression in the playoffs, the football is kind of the standard that we saw yesterday, and then the prices go up for the games, it's not going to increase crowds next season, is it? So, it's just, these are the kind of conversations that need to be had. The planning for next season will already be well underway, I'm sure, with the club. I think from an OASF point of view, we need to try and get, we've got a meeting with Darren Moore on Monday, haven't we, Dom?
We've got season tickets and ticket prices for next season, top of the agenda.
Yeah, so
the question will be asked.
Yeah, and you've been doing some great work, Dom, to be fair, recently with surveys and getting things out there, talking about travel coach travel and for the away fans, and the club have given free fan travel for Eastleigh on Tuesday, which is great. So there's the thing is, there's a lot of moving parts, isn't there, for us to pay attention to when it comes to this. There's no quick fixes for anything. There's nothing's easy, but we want to get Boundary Park full. It's not going to get 11,000 every week, but we want to get Boundary Park really full, and we want it to be an occasion every week and every game. And if there's an effort to try and make each game special. I'll have to be in different ways, then surely special and affordable, even if that's not how it sort of ends up, that with performances and stuff. But I think there has to be a drive. Things like fan zones, accessibility to bars and all that stuff, and merchandise, and there's a lot of work to do, and it's not going to be fixed overnight, but that's the hope. So I don't know, have you got anything to add on that, Dom?
If you want to see things improve at Latics, or you've got ideas about how we can improve things, get in touch with OSF. You don't need to be a board member. You don't need to be a member. If you want to do something, although it obviously does help if you are a member. It's only 12 quid a year, but
I need to sign up for that, lads. And it's and I'm happy to do it today. Send us the link. It's just apathy on my part and forgetfulness. So I heard the episode what you put out a couple of months ago, which we dedicated to that, and I was driving and I thought I'll do that when I get home, and I didn't. But 100%, send us the link after this, Matt or Dom, and I will sign up for it, because it's just lack of it's just forgetfulness on my part.
Yeah, and you know what? We've not. I don't think we've had this conversation. We've not made it urgent enough in terms of getting it out there and being consistent with our messaging and the marketing and stuff like that. So we've got a lot of work to do to keep it. Keep reminding people to do it. And the thing is that the more members we have, the more of a unified voice we have in terms of these kind of issues, going forward. And I'd really like to sort of next season, I think probably on the podcast, start bringing more of these questions about a sustainable football club that attracts big crowds, that where we go with all this, and what as fans we can do to support the club to bring about the best experience for everybody, because I think it's a collective thing. We've got to work on it together. We've got to have we can't put it all on the owners to just provide the money and do all that, but they can't just put it all on us to sort of pay as much as we can afford for everything either, because that's only going to appeal to a limited number of people. So, there is a broader conversation of how do we get to the point where what we had yesterday is a more consistent thing at Boundary Park, and it's a more enjoyable experience. And you know what? You can put up with the odd calamitous home performance and defeat, because in the broader context of things, you still had a really good day, and that that the majority of the days you have at the football club are going to be really good days. So there are things that we need to address off the back of yesterday that go beyond the performance on the pitch. We have to trust that Mickey Mellon is the man who's going to go away and make those improvements. And the board are going to listen to what organisations like OSF have to say, and we can hopefully start representing the fans to help move us in that direction, where every match at Boundary Park, is a special occasion. It's not going to be as special as that, because it's not every day your chairman comes back after rowing the Atlantic and setting a new world record. In the meantime, it's not going to be like that. Amazing achievement from Frank. We've said it before, and we'll say it again. The whole town is proud of him, what he's done, and he's really setting the bar, I think, in terms of what can be achieved. And why not want 10,000 at Boundary Park every game, regardless of what division we're in? And why not make it a special occasion? And because it's Frank himself who is posing that question. Why not? Why not be the oldest man ever to row the Atlantic? Do you know what I mean? He's setting the bar high himself.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Frank sort of saying, "Oh yeah, I got capsized four times or whatever." Last time I did it, it was a 6 out of 10 in terms of difficulty. This time it was an 8.5 out of 10. I wasn't ready for him to say 8.5. I thought I was going to say 10, and then he said, "Oh yeah, I'll do it again." he's absolutely crackers, but that's why we love him. Hopefully he gives himself a bit of a break before he goes again. But yeah,
I'm sure his wife and family will do everything within their power to stop him from doing it again. Like you've nothing left to prove, Frank. Really, you really haven't. Like, do you know what I mean? Just stay safe now. It's dangerous doing that. Don't do it again. But yeah, he's setting the bar. But you know what? We're gonna have to come around to it, Cliff. You're gonna have to do Latics Mind. The bar has been set really, really high, but it's also been set really, really low. So maybe you'll come somewhere in the middle.
I'll sneak under the low part, I think, Matt. We'll give it a go.
They're all easy if you know the answer. That's all we're going to say. So, right, if you're ready to play, mate, I'll hit the music and good luck. When did Latics last win at home on Boxing Day?
2019.
Incorrect. 2005 against Bradford City. From and including the game on Boxing Day 2005, how many goals did Luke Beckett score from then until the end of the season?
10.
Incorrect. 17. How many times have Latics reached the FA Cup fourth round in the 21st century?
Once.
4 times. Which goalkeeper moved from Latics to Colchester in 1993?
93 was that John Keeley?
Correct. Who knocked Latics out of the League Cup in both 1987 and 1988?
Bloody hell. Leeds.
Everton. How many times did Latics reach how many times did Latics reach at least the fourth round of the FA Cup in the 90s?
3 times.
It was 5 times. Which Liverpool legend scored his first ever league goal against Latics in October 1993?
Gerrard.
It was Robbie Fowler. Which defender did Latics loan from Everton in February 1995?
Pass.
Who wore the number 7 shirt in the FA Cup semi-final in 1990?
Neil Adams.
It was the other Neil Redfern. So that's easy for me to add up. You got one right.
Nice one, yeah.
Dom, are you going to impress us by knowing which defender Latics took on loan from Everton in February 1995?
I wrote down the only Everton defender I could possibly think of that might have been playing for Everton in 1995, the year before I was born, which was David Unsworth. I assume it wasn't David Unsworth.
It wasn't David Unsworth. It was Neil Moore, who I have absolutely no memory of whatsoever. But then I don't actually have that many memories of 1995. It was such a good year. So yeah, listen, you did the main thing, which is to not draw a blank.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
I only got one as well.
They weren't easy. They weren't easy. A lot of them are sort of like number based and things like that. It's a bit of a punt in the dark in it, really. And I think majority of people would have gone with Neil Adams as the number 7. That was unlucky. So I just want to remind fans that despite all our doom and gloom about the football from yesterday, there is a chance that Latics will open the trophy chest again this season by winning the playoffs, and we'll be ready to celebrate if we do, and we'll be ready to party if we don't on the 18th of May at the Cotton Rooms in Oldham. We're having our end of season party. We're having our end of season awards. It was a great event last year with David Unsworth. Mike Fondop was goal of the season. Joseph Yarni won Player of the Year. They were both there. Yarni took his award, ran out the door, jumped in a taxi, went straight to Tranmere. So that was nice of him. But Mikey stayed. And, we'll do it all again this season. It'd be a great laugh. If you go on our website and click shop, it's oafcpodcast.co.uk/shop. Tickets are available there. There'll be live music. There'll be special guests. There'll be pie. And, potentially we'll be partying and celebrating promotion. But either way, we'll have a great night. It was fantastic last time. We had nothing to celebrate then, apart from the fact that we had a club. And we still have a club. And we'll celebrate all things, all the good things about Latics, and there's lots of them. So, yeah, come along to that if you can. It's on the 18th of May. We got there in the end, Cliff. We had a few technical issues at the beginning, but thank you for your contribution. It's much appreciated.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me. And cheers, Dom. Nice to have met you. Send us that link 100%, please.
I was just about to say, what are you gonna do when you how do people sign up as members, Dom? Give us because everybody who's listening now is not a member of OASF and want to see a better, more sustainable, more inclusive game of football in general, rather than just Latics, because OASF, we want to be part of that movement, don't we? How do people get involved?
So you go to oasf.co.uk, and then on that webpage, there's a big button at the top that says become a member, and you follow the link through there.
It sounds like it's really easy to do.
It is really easy to do, Matt. You can pay by card. You can set it to recur if you want. It's only £12 a year, and you get access to plenty of member benefits, such as discounts from our shop, a share in OASF, a vote at all our AGMs, but also access to meeting minutes, both from OASF board meetings, but also with the meeting that we're having with Darren tomorrow. So if you want to find out more about ticket prices and what the club's plans are for their accounts, which are due in a month, and whether they're going to let us see them, then become a member and you can see them. We tend to publish the minutes of those things quite quickly.
Great stuff. Thanks for that, Dom. Thanks, Cliff. And there might not be 11,000 of us at Eastleigh on Tuesday night, but chances are the few hundred or a couple of hundred, or however many it is that make it there, have got more chance of seeing a win than we did at Boundary Park. A big congratulations to Frank. Also a big congratulations to the club for putting on such a special occasion yesterday. Come on, lads. Come on, Mickey. Let's have 3 points on Tuesday. Thanks for listening. We'll see you for the phone-in on Wednesday.
Thank you for listening to the Boundary Park Alert System, a QPod production hosted and produced weekly by Matt Dean, Andy Halliwell and Dave Bradley. QPod is Oldham's only dedicated podcast production company, and if you'd like to learn more about how podcasting can help take your brand to the next level, visit kupod.co.uk. A huge thank you goes to all those people who subscribe to the podcast on Spotify. We really appreciate you all. Please visit oafcpodcast.co.uk and click Be a Supporter, or find the link in the show notes if you'd like to help us fund the show. It's only $2.99 per month to subscribe, but if you'd rather make a one-off donation, please visit buymeacoffee.com/OAFC podcast or click the link on our website. Don't miss the Latics football phone-in every Wednesday live from 8:30pm. Please visit youtube.com/@OAFC podcast and do hit subscribe while you are there. You can also follow and interact with us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and TikTok @OAFC podcast. Big thanks go to Eileen Finnegan for writing our excellent weekly blog, which we encourage you to read on our website every Saturday morning, and also to Paul Prendergast for providing us with all the Latics Mind questions. The title music for the show is by Manchester DJ and producer Starion, and for more information visit bandcamp.com/Red Laser Records. If you'd like to be a guest or contribute to the show, we would love to hear from you. Until then, see you next time.